Friends, do you know how to make yourself more spiritual? It is often said that everyone has their own fate. This is indeed true. If you're born into a wealthy family, you're a rich second generation. If you're born into a poor family, you have to take charge early. So a part of our fate is already determined before we're born. This is what's called innate destiny. Although everyone's innate destiny is different, there is one thing that's the same. That is, everyone has the same power within them. We all possess it inherently. It depends on how much you can bring out, and the key to unleashing it lies in the degree to which each person's spiritual nature is awakened, or in other words, the degree of enlightenment. There are many smart people in this world, but among them, those who can truly be called spiritual are very few, especially those who are born with spirituality. They are even rarer. Of course, when I talk about spirituality, you might think it's vague. So let me explain it to you from the beginning. The three schools of Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism. Taoism speaks of cultivating the Tao. Buddhism speaks of meditation. Confucianism speaks of investigating things. Regardless of the school, they all talk about cultivation. Since everyone is cultivating, are they cultivating the same thing? That's right. Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism all explore ways to communicate with heaven and earth. That is, the source. In simpler terms, it's about trying to communicate with the source on a different channel. People in the universe, heaven and earth, all things are connected every moment. Even though we are now in mortal bodies, we are still communicating with heaven and earth in our own way. You eat and drink water, right? That's using your mouth and tongue to communicate with heaven and earth. You see things and hear sounds, right? That's using your eyes and ears to communicate with heaven and earth. You can smell scents. You can touch, right? That's using your nose and body to communicate with heaven and earth. I believe you've noticed. Isn't this the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body? That's right. It's the first 5 of the 6 senses often mentioned in Buddhism. And what's the other one? Mind, that is, thoughts and consciousness. Purifying the 6 senses means purifying these 6 faculties. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. The first 5 are how we receive information from heaven and earth. They are processed by the brain and become our consciousness. Then we use this consciousness to think, summarize into knowledge, and then use it for ourselves. This use is our feedback to the world. We use our physical bodies to receive signals from heaven and earth. Then through conscious thinking, we transform them into actions that feed back to heaven and earth. This is what we do every moment on the normal channel. It's the way we communicate with heaven and earth on the normal channel. So can we switch to a higher channel? In this more advanced channel, can we communicate with heaven, earth, and the source? Of course we can. Cultivation is this path, a path that allows our thoughts to directly communicate with the source. This path is spirituality. Simply put, spirituality is your ability to connect with all things, and the ability to perceive the connection with other beings. Moreover, spirituality is a variable, not a constant. We may be very spiritual when we're born, but later, as we receive more and more pollution, it becomes weaker. It's like a light bulb. It's 100 watts, very bright, right? But if you don't wipe off the dust on the bulb, gradually as the dirt builds up too thick, the light becomes dim. And spirituality, like the light bulb, is a kind of light emitted from the soul. To go deeper, spirituality is discovering and living out your own essence. It's pursuing and manifesting your true inner self. As long as you're honest with yourself, living out the talents and mission you desire, that is spirituality. For example, a river. Its source is very cool and pure. You can scoop it up and drink it, right? But when the water flows to the middle, you dare not drink it. Because in the middle reaches, much pollution has entered. By the time it reaches downstream, the water is even dirtier. So dirty it's unimaginable. So what we need to do is find our source. That is our origin and essence. Spirituality can help us break free from the limitations of the physical shell and perceive the world in a more direct way. In other words, when your spirituality is heightened, your perspective on the world changes. The world you see is also different. Those who are spiritual often share common characteristics. For example, they learn things particularly quickly. When chatting with others, the other person says one sentence, and they can immediately sense what the next sentence will be. They always notice details that others overlook. The color of a garment's cuff, the scent on others. They are especially able to be tolerant of others, and their temper becomes particularly good. And over time, another characteristic will gradually emerge. That is, when they think, their thoughts are particularly jumpy. They won't be stuck spinning within fixed perceptions like most people, because the way they process information is different from the ordinary, step-by-step, one link after another method. Spirituality can bring you a completely different experience of the world, but it may manifest differently in each person. Some people are just beginning to show spirituality, some have considerable spirituality, and some people are already completely communicating with heaven and earth in a spiritual way. Okay, now that we've talked about the benefits of spirituality, let's talk about how to awaken our own spirituality. First, clearly understand the characteristics of the ego. See the habitual tendencies of the ego in your mind and become its observer. As long as you are in a state of observation, the ego cannot operate. You are here, the ego is in thoughts. You are in the present moment, the ego cannot survive. Before observing the ego, you can start by observing your thoughts. This is a practice you can often do in the future. That is, try to observe the thoughts in your mind as much as possible. Listen to the voices in your head. When you listen, listen without discrimination. Do not interpret or criticize the thoughts you observe. That is, don't generate other thoughts about the thoughts. Because once you interpret the thoughts you observe, it means another thought has come in. This practice can improve your level of consciousness. Because when you observe, you are completely in the present moment. The more you are in the present moment, the higher your level of consciousness will be. Not only do you perceive the voice of the ego, you also perceive yourself. To observe the ego, you must understand all its characteristics. In addition to observing thoughts, there's also your way of looking at things. Your reactions to various situations. Your reactions to things that make you happy and things that annoy you. Your reactions to the ego and the emotions generated by these reactions. These reactions may all be conditional and unconscious. Observe them. The more you observe, the more you will understand the ego. Sometimes you may even hate the ego, but you need to understand who is hating. It is the ego that is hating. When you have sufficient awareness, you will not give reactions to the ego. By not reacting to the ego, the energy of the ego will disappear, just like a deflated balloon. When you realize that the ego is a completely fictional illusion, you will not give it any reactions. Not only do you not react to your own ego, you also won't react to others' egos. You know that is not their essence. You will only abide in the field of present consciousness and respond to them consciously. This response might be doing nothing at all. Second is to return to our true nature. How do we return? First, by seeking inward. Withdraw the focus of attention from external people, events, and environments. Turn it inward. Typically, a person's cognition and judgment of things come from their growing environment and education. When you perceive a thing, an object, a person, or yourself as a certain way, then at that moment, for you and their reality are as you believe. You will also make judgments and reactions based on how you perceive them. Whatever your judgments and reactions are, at that moment, these judgments and reactions directly reflect your state of consciousness. If you believe you are that small ego, then at that moment, you are that limited ego. If you are now consciously present, then your presence is your reality at this moment. In other words, your state of consciousness can determine the appearance of your world, including who you are. So your state of consciousness can change the world around you at any time. Apart from the levels of consciousness and energy fields that are hard for us to detect, factors that change your surrounding world are also reflected in your thoughts and behaviors. In fact, these all happen synchronously. It doesn't matter if you don't understand. I'll give you an example, and you'll get it. For example, you did something that directly changed the final result of an event. Today, you didn't drive to work, you chose to walk and ended up being late, but on the way, you met someone you like. This is an example we can easily understand of consciousness changing the world. A bit harder to understand. For example, you believe your child is a certain kind of person, and you can largely decide what kind of person they will become. If you think they're useless, they will likely become useless. If you feel you have to work twice as hard to achieve your desired goals, then you'll live in a world of striving and survival. Although it's not necessarily always like this. There are many impermanent factors involved, but your state of consciousness can directly affect your world. Besides the ways of change mentioned above, there are those beyond our mental understanding, that is, at the level of consciousness and energy fields. Your consciousness can directly affect changes in the world around you. We won't list them all here. When you can access the presence of consciousness, you will realize how consciousness changes the world. An individual's state of consciousness can change the appearance of their personal world. The collective state of consciousness of all humanity forms the collective consciousness of humanity. And the collective consciousness can determine the appearance of the entire human world. Since the state of consciousness is closely related to our inner being, we can say that the current appearance of the world is a reflection of humanity's inner consciousness. Therefore, to change your own state, you must start from within. Elevate your state of consciousness. By changing your inner state of consciousness, you change the outer world. Next is to delve deeply into the present moment. All things in this three-dimensional world exist in the now. Outside of the now, there is nothing. Only the present moment is real. Everything outside of it is an illusion. What you see and experience becomes fleeting in an instant. And you are like the head of a video player. Although the tape has a lot of content, you can only experience the content that passes over the head at that instant. If in that instant you are fully focused here, you can perfectly present that moment's content and enjoy it. But in most cases, you always think the present isn't good enough. Always feel that something is missing, even bored. Your gaze is always chasing the next moment. When you are here, your mind has already run to what you're going to do next or things further ahead. Always planning in your mind, immersed in the imagination of the mind. At this moment, you always think many things aren't good enough. You think you have to wait for some things to happen before you can settle in the now. For example, I have many things unfinished. I need to complete them to be satisfied. I need more money. When this thing is done, I'll be satisfied. Or you're experiencing some hardships in life situations, going through some negative situations like unemployment, illness, or you've experienced a catastrophic event, causing you to lose what you consider the most valuable things in life. Although these seem not good enough, and in your view, even bad things, but if you examine them carefully, you'll find they are neither good nor bad, just the normal current situation. If you're in such a negative situation, you can examine it like this. Ask yourself, is my current state reasonable in the world? Is considering it a bad thing a judgment made by the ego? After treating it as a bad thing, what's the impact on my current situation? Does it hinder or help me get out of the negative situation? Does this matter have any significance for my life? What gains and insights can I get from it? If I don't treat it as a bad thing and fully accept the current situation, what will happen? When you ask yourself these questions, don't answer immediately. Instead, seek answers from within. When you don't answer these questions from the mind, the answers become very obvious. When you consider negative situations as bad things, you create a victim identity for yourself. At the same time, you state your position, strengthening the ego's identity. If you can accept the current situation, not see it as a bad thing, and clearly understand its essence, then if you go deeper within, not seeking identity in your story, fully present at this moment, you will find the peace of conscious presence within you. And this peace is the most precious wealth you gain from this negative situation. Having a profound experience, you will no longer see negative situations as obstacles. Moreover, you will thank the experience of negative situations because they let you understand yourself more deeply. At this time, those so-called negative situations no longer seem negative. They are just normal situations in your life. There are many such examples in life. Some people, after experiencing deep suffering, suddenly realize the true meaning of life overnight. They are like reborn, fully living in the present. Why does this happen? Because under normal circumstances, they identify with thoughts. When they suffer some accident, the content they previously identified with is completely destroyed. At this time, they may instantly withdraw from these identifications. Or when this destruction causes them more pain, and the pain reaches its peak, making them unable to endure it anymore, they may choose to let go of those identifications. thereby withdrawing from the pain. These seemingly negative things are actually indispensable stepping stones in our lives. They can make you stand taller, see farther, and understand deeper. Pain can be seen as a potion for awakening. Although ego identification can make you miserable, ultimately it is also an excellent remedy to awaken you. Every pain you experience reminds you to let go of pain. It tells you not to identify with external things. Those external things have nothing to do with your essence. Of course, you cannot directly let go of pain. It is letting you let go of the things you identify with. Let go of identification with external things, thereby returning to your true nature. To let go of identified things, start by becoming aware of your thought patterns. See which ones you identify with the most, which ones you relatively identify with. Identify their true identity. Withdraw your identification with them. Return to the reality of the present essence. Realize that this moment is all you have. Know that what you identify with, no matter how reasonable it seems, are just some thoughts conditioned by the past. Identifying with these thoughts is identifying with illusions. What could be more futile than identifying with illusions? All your pain is caused by your resistance to the present as it is. No matter what you're experiencing, as long as you resist the reality of this moment, you will suffer. Even if you experience pain again, your resistance is the main cause of your suffering. Let go of resistance, and ultimately there will only be some physical pain and discomfort. They are just some sensations of the body. If you accept these sensations, the pain will also reduce. When you don't see pain as yourself, the suffering disappears. Ultimately, your acceptance will transform into deep peace. This is also the best medicine for your recovery. Delving into the present starts with becoming aware of a conscious breath at this moment. Observe the surrounding environment and things without psychological judgment. Feel the energy field of the inner body. Listen to the silent space of awareness. These are all methods to delve into the present, including other methods like meditation and sitting quietly. As long as it brings the focus of consciousness into the present, it can be seen as a method to delve into the present. Whenever you have free time, you can use these methods to practice delving into the present. Deepen your consciousness. But be careful not to treat them as a means to escape pain or as a formal practice. Practicing delving into the present is to make yourself more present. Facing pain is to let yourself understand the mechanism of unconsciousness. Both are indispensable. Of course, it's not just pain. All your unconscious mechanisms are included. Because only by understanding all unconscious mechanisms can you become more conscious. Otherwise, you might get stuck in some unconsciousness without realizing it. Every time you feel pain or negative emotions, it's reminding you to become more present. No matter how strong the energy of unconsciousness is, under the light of consciousness, it has nowhere to hide. If we compare unconsciousness to darkness, then consciousness is light. Wherever the light goes, the darkness disappears. No need to struggle with unconsciousness. You cannot defeat unconsciousness because the act of wanting to defeat unconsciousness is unconsciousness itself. Also, don't think about controlling your thoughts because the act of controlling thoughts originates from thoughts. You are a conscious being. Bringing consciousness into unconsciousness is bringing light into darkness. You illuminate your world and emit shining light outward. When you practice delving into the present for a while, your state of consciousness will undergo some considerable changes. You may not, or rarely, create negative emotions again. Negative emotions will no longer affect you. When delving into the present, you feel the wonderful tranquility of being fully in the now. You will also deeply experience the joy of being. This is a joy that transcends all worldly pleasures. It is not happiness. Happiness generally requires something to happen to trigger your happiness. But the joy of being is different. It comes from within. It is your inherent self-nature. Happiness may be lost for some reasons, but the joy of being will not. She has always been there. It's just that you couldn't feel it due to insufficient presence of consciousness. But don't label them with concepts. When you feel the joy of being, your mind may jump out to explain these feelings and conceptualize them. When these thoughts arise, don't pay attention to them. When you become more and more conscious, your ego will lose control. At this time, your mind will serve you. Before, it was an unobserved mind, forming the ego, controlled by the ego. Now you have become its master. When the mind connects to consciousness, it becomes highly efficient. At this time, your every move will be full of spirituality. Many beautiful creations in the world are produced in this way. In this state, there will be no extra thinking, but a completely natural expression. Actions follow the heart, flowing like water. In this case, it's impossible for you to think. Thinking can't keep up with your speed. The whole process is a complete expression of mind and spirit in harmony. If you are learning some skills and techniques, the more consciously focused you are, the faster and better you will learn. Your being consciousness is the source of wisdom. It is not what we call cleverness. The ego is often very clever, but it lacks wisdom. Delving into the present is the only way to connect to the source of wisdom. Those who are more focused on the present in action, whether they achieve great things or deal with seemingly insignificant small matters, whether they know it or not, they are people with wisdom. They may have outstanding performances in some fields. They may also be those who live in seclusion. Although these people have extraordinary abilities, they are often very humble, never pretentious. They just be their natural selves. You may have had such experiences. When you are fully engaged in doing something in the present, you feel very relaxed and happy. Even if the work is hard, you won't feel tired. And there is a deep joy in it. This is one of the benefits of delving into the present. The main reason is that you don't have excessive thinking to create extra emotions and stress. You are completely in the present. All your attention is given to this moment. No energy is allocated to anything unrelated to the present. In this way, you are most powerful. Working in such a state is both efficient and not tiring. In fact, you can always be in such a state. That is, consciously present at all times. Focus your consciousness on this moment. Be aware of the thoughts in your mind. Stay longer in the gaps between each thought. When consciousness dominates your life, you can be at ease in the present. Regarding delving into the present, it seems we've talked a bit too long. But even so, there's still a part we need to discuss. Delving into the present can keep you in peace, and thus your body can enjoy with you. Besides dealing with the current situation, there are no other burdens. Dealing with the present is a very simple matter for the body. In the past, your prolonged anxiety and tension, and those extreme emotions, brought too much extra burden to your body. It's like every moment it has to deal with very complex situations. This greatly affects your life vitality. Prolonged emotions consume a large amount of energy from the body. Although you can replenish some energy by supplementing more nutrition, this void of energy can never be filled. Besides the external energy, prolonged emotional consumption also affects your sleep quality. And this affects your efficiency in obtaining energy from the source. Every time you sleep deeply, you return to the source. Get energy there. And this energy is indispensable to you. You can go without external energy intake for a while, but the energy from the source must be taken in periodically. The source mentioned here is not a place or somewhere, but the source we mentioned at the beginning. It is everywhere, and also within you. When you are in a state of deep sleep, for you, all external activities stop. Nothing exists. Everything is like emptiness. Only emptiness exists there. No time, no duality, only being. Besides entering that timeless realm through deep sleep, you can also consciously enter that realm by delving deep within. This is what we'll talk about next. You can enter this state by becoming aware of the energy field of the inner body, but you can't deliberately think about entering this state. When you are deliberate, you cannot enter this state. It either happens unintentionally or only when you are in a state of complete surrender. No matter the situation, you must fully surrender. Even surrendering is not something you can do actively. Next, I'll roughly talk about this process. Whenever you're ready to practice, first make sure nothing can disturb you. Of course, this doesn't include normal environmental sounds. First, find a suitable position. Sitting or lying down is fine. Take a few conscious breaths to relax yourself. Then treat your entire body as a single energy field. Become aware of it, slowly going deeper from where you can feel. You can also start from your hands and feet, then expand to the whole body. Or imagine your whole body filled with light, surrounded by light. When you can become aware of the single energy field, stay in this feeling. Don't give psychological judgment or description to this feeling. At this time, you'll feel the perception of the external body becoming blurred and the energy field of the inner body becoming clearer. You will feel a clear and peaceful sense of existence. At this time, throw away all your mental images. Continue to stay in this feeling of existence. As the energy field of the inner body goes deeper, your perception of the inner body will also begin to fade slowly. Finally reaching the source of unmanifested life, that is, the state of pure consciousness. This is a state of great liberation. In this state, there is no time, no manifested things, only pure consciousness. In a comfortable situation, stay in this state as long as possible until you want to return to the external. It sounds magical and incredible, but when you understand and experience it, you'll understand its true meaning. After you experience it, you may understand the true meaning of life. Any wealth in the world pales in comparison to this experience. It can help you connect more deeply with the source of wisdom, making you wiser and more spiritual. But be careful not to let your mind get mixed up with it. It may start to imagine the mysteries wildly and add colors of old thinking. Be aware of your thoughts. Some views of the mind may come from within, while others may come from the ego. Another point is that although this great liberation is desirable, you should not be too attached to it, because being too attached becomes a pursuit and desire of the ego. This state of great liberation is the state of connecting with the source. There is endless energy here. In this state, your body will be in a very deep, relaxed state, and thus the body will be healed quickly. It is the place for your body and mind purification. It can heal both your body and mind. This is why no matter how tired you are physically and mentally, as long as you sleep deeply, you can still be radiant the next day. And if you don't sleep well, even if you do nothing, you will still be exhausted. Well, this video is a bit long. Thank you very much for watching until here. I hope it has touched and inspired you. See you next time.